you looking to become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment? Well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership.
Homo sapiens, and welcome in, broadcasting live from Hamilton Radio Channel 2. This is The Rome Show. I am your host, Andrew Romanella, and I am super stoked to be back with you here Monday, August 5th. We're going all the way to 2 p.m. We got a dynamite show lined up for you today. We have guest Dana Cavalea. Dana, the former strength and conditioning coach of the New York Yankees for nearly 9 years, was in the organization for 13 years, also author of the book Habits of a Champion. If you're watching this broadcast on facebooklive.com/Andrew Romanella, you could see the book. I'm holding it up to the camera now. For all of those of you listening on HamiltonRadio.net or the Hamilton Radio app, as we get through the show, you'll hear me say this multiple times, but I will be tweeting out a picture and a link for you to get Dana's book. But we got a lot to get into before we get to our interview with Dana. And, of course, we remind you, social medias, Coach Romo24 on Twitter and the Gram. You can send the show an email, theromeshow1@gmail.com. However, I find it pretty funny that not many people ever take me up on the Gmail offer on the podcast and on the live radio show. And, of course, you can call in the number 609-807-2492. That's 609-807-2492. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, at any point in time during the show, you can call in. And even when we have the interview with Coach Dana Cavalea, you can call in then too. So 609-807-2492, to the best of my ability. I will remember to say that out loud. And lastly, Facebook.com, I mentioned it before. If you're on it, if you're watching it, comment. I've told you multiple times since I started this show, I'm trying to get better at my in-show interaction. So if you want to test my skills, go ahead and get at me on the Twitter and or the Facebook throughout the show. We remind you, you heard it on the intro, that this show is brought to you by 360 Management Services. You go to 360managementservices.com. That's the number 3, the word 60managementservices.com, and go pick up a copy of the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts, because for the remainder of the 2019 year, $1 from every book sold will be donated back to the V Foundation for Cancer Research in honor of the great and late Jim Valvano. So that's the number 3, the word 60managementservices.com. Head over there, buy yourself a copy of Tighten the Lug Nuts. I mean, it's all over the video screen on Facebook. I'm going to put it all over the Twitter once I get done with the show. So many ways. Guys, you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iBooks, or the website, 360managementservices.com. Go get yourself a copy of the book and donate back to the V Foundation. The Straight Off the Rome for you today, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting into the mind. And because we have Coach Dana Cavalea coming on the show today, I started thinking a lot about the mental struggles that I've gone on or have gone on in my life up until this point. And we had a great guest on the show 2 weeks ago, Nikki Jensen. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to Nikki, I highly suggest you go back on my Facebook timeline and go watch that Rome show, because Nikki had some great things to talk about the holistic approach, and more specifically, the nutrition, a little bit about the mind and creating habits. Well, Dana's book happens to be called Habits of a Champion. So I thought it'd be very appropriate to bring on Dana in this episode to continue to dive into how we can create this, as Nikki put it, holistic approach to the human being and to the individual. So for me, growing up, I struggled a lot mentally. I did, and I referenced to you before, I had weight issues, and I had struggled with self-image. And it was super difficult for me to get out of that mindset, and sometimes I found very difficult for me to take the negative mindset I had and what I look like and not bring it onto the baseball field and not bring it onto the hockey rink. So that would then turn into me doubting myself as an athlete. And the crazy thing is I was a very good athlete. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to sit here and tell you about their high school statistics and, oh, it's great. Yeah, I played college athletics. Cool, right? But what I look at is that I was a good athlete, but I should have been better. I should have been able to accomplish more. And people might look at me and say, well, that's stupid. You played 3 varsity sports, technically 4 because I rode the bench for 4 months on the varsity basketball team. Played 3 varsity sports in high school. You played Division III and Division II baseball. You're coaching collegiate baseball. You coach professional baseball. A lot of people would say you've had a fantastic athletic career. And I look at it on the other side of the fence and I say, well, yes, but no. Because I did not handle the mental side of the game appropriately enough. From failure in one at-bat leading to the next at-bat, from a turnover in the neutral zone leading into a bad defensive play and a goal scored on our team. I couldn't turn the page, as my great high school coach, Jeff Trundy at the Gunnery School, used to tell me. I could not turn the page. And in life, you have to learn to turn the page. And that all starts with the mind and the thoughts and the way you think. So I want you to think about, on a daily basis, when you wake up, what are you saying to yourself in your mind? Do you have positive thoughts or do you have negative thoughts? Do you use can'ts and won'ts or wills and I can? Which side of the fence do you fall on? And you'll never realize it until you start making a conscious effort to realize it, how important self-talk is. Self-talk is one of the most important things you can do as a human being. And I know Dana's going to talk about it a little bit because he had the opportunity to work with some of the greats. Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Alex Rodriguez, Jorge Posada. I mean, these are guys that the generation I grew up with specifically idolized and made the New York Yankees what really, right now, people think about. And why Yankees fans now are mad that they haven't won since 2009 is because that generation of players brought us to a point where we expected the Yankees to win every single year. And in the book Habits of a Champion, Dana references the importance of building that mindset, and he'll touch on it more, and we'll touch on it more later about what Mariano Rivera thinks and does specifically in his mind to get him to be a successful athlete at the highest level. Well, it's not just for athletes, though. It's for the average human being. If you wake up every day, and even if it's kind of a joking matter, you say, I just can't today. It's Monday. I'm tired. I just can't today. Well, now you just started your day off on a negative note, and you now put your mind into the category of can't and won't. Therefore, you're going to find the gray negative side of everything for the remainder of that day. That can't happen. It can't happen. And it's hard. And it's a daily struggle. And we talk about habits, and I talked about habits last week. Do one task a day and then build it into 2 and then build it into 3. Well, for me, that was working out. I talked about this on the Rome Squared podcast, and I even talked about it a little bit on the DAAB Podcast as well. Go check them out. Go to DAAB Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify. I talked about the workout group that I joined. And I'm not afraid to admit it. It was, you know what? I loved it. Okay, it was a workout group that I had joined for a week trial period, and the reason why I joined it was to create the habit of working out every day. It's a beach body workout group. Now, I am maybe old school in the thought that I really like to lift weights, right? That's why I love the Homo sapiens, big guys just throwing weights around and rocks up against walls, right? I love that. But this is a different kind of workout. And I thought, this will challenge me a little bit, but it'll give me accountability. I got to post in the workout group every day. I got to try the workout. I got to interact with other people, right? Well, what that turned into 2.5 months ago is now me being on a consistent workout regimen every single day. I mean, even on days when I'm going to recruiting camps and I have to wake up and drive to the Bronx 2 hours and be up at 4 a.m., hey, you know what? I got to set my alarm a little bit earlier because I got to get this workout in. It's a part of my daily habit now. And over the course of 3 months, man, do I feel better. And I then joined another one. And now I'm a member of this little workout group fraternity. And yeah, they got a little bit of my money so I could get the really, really good workouts. But the point being is I made a conscious effort to go outside my comfort zone, outside my normal workout box, and try and create a habit that could now last me not just today, tomorrow, or the next day, last week, this month, last month, whatever it is, but my life. Life changes. My godfather told me this when I first went on that diet. Remember I mentioned to you guys 2 weeks ago? That diet I went on, my godfather told me, Andrew, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. And that was the best advice I ever got. And your mindset every day has to be a lifestyle change. You have to be willing and ready to create a habit and want to do it every single day and have the mindset and be positive in your thought process every single day. And if you're not, you'll start to realize, looking back on quote-unquote bad days that you've had, that you woke up and you were just on the negative side of your mind for that day. And you didn't put a conscious effort into being positive. And you didn't put a conscious effort into making sure that you put yourself in a good mind space so that you could dominate that day and then you could formulate positive habits for yourself over time. And I'm super stoked when I know he's on the line, and I'm about to bring him in here because why I'm amped that Dana Cavalea is here with us today is because he founded his career and wrote a book about it on how the best of the best create habits like champions so that they can be champions and consistently do it over time. And I'm going to welcome him in here now. Dana Cavalea is a highly sought after, high performance coach. Dana, just so you all know, is a World Series champion with the New York Yankees in 2009, was their strength and conditioning coach from 2007 to 2013, and I've referenced it multiple times already, is also the author of the book, Habits of a Champion. Nobody becomes a champion by accident. Coach, thank you so much for joining the Rome Show today.
You got it. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm very pumped. And for those of you that may not know, and I'm sure they don't, I've had the opportunity to speak with Dana a few times over the last year or so. He was a very welcome guest on the DAAB Podcast. And then he so graciously came to Fairleigh Dickinson University in Florham and spoke to the Division III student athletes there. So Dana has been somebody that I've gone to a few times over the last year. And Dana, what I want you to explain to the Rome Show people is how you kind of got here to the point where you were a strength and conditioning coach, you wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach, but you realized it wasn't just about every day going to the gym and putting up weights, but you had to create good habits. And when you saw these championship caliber athletes creating good habits, you were like, wow, there's a whole lot more that goes into this training thing.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, listen, I got started in my journey, as I always say, I failed a lot, and I required a lot of coaching to wring out the sponge and get the most talent, out of me. And when I realized that, I was putting so much effort in physically and I was seeing increases in performance, but I couldn't get that next 10 to 20% just by working my physical. And when I was able to pair that up with just the mindset and learning techniques and strategies to, deal with stress, deal with performance anxiety, that really became the game changer. And, fortunately, I got a chance to work next to guys like Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Andy Pettit, Mariano Rivera, A-Rod, up close and personal. And I said, these guys have obviously a tremendous amount of talent. They also, train, with consistency, with a great plan, that I put together for them. And, what they also had was an incredible ability not to take things and performances personal. When they failed, which is just the nature of the game that we play, they didn't look at themselves as a failure. They understood the game. They understood the business that they were in and realized that just comes with it. So when you start to understand those things, you don't start to put the pressure on yourself. You actually just say, it is what it is. That's just a part of this game. And those were the things that I learned, is just our own mental state can oftentimes be the one thing that takes us over. And we have to realize that over and over and over again. And, it is our mental state. So as much as we remember it, we also forget it, and we fall into the same traps, habits, both positive and negative, as well as patterns.
And guys, remember, if you want to call in and ask a question to Coach, 609-807-2492, you can get on the show and ask him a question yourself. And the word that popped out to me in that last statement, Dana, was consistency. And my assumption is, as you were in professional sports and as you were working with the players that you just referenced, one of the main things they probably did on a daily basis was be consistent in their routine.
Well, they were consistent in their routine. They were actually very consistent in their thoughts and their attitudes, in their mood. Very, very rarely were you surprised by what a guy was bringing to the ballpark that day. Ultimately, they were very consistent, and the better the player, the more consistent they were. There weren't these, erratic mood swings and basically, untreated bipolarism going on. Guys were very consistent there, but they were also very simple. I find today we're in the success revolution where everybody's got the answer of how to be successful. And it forces people to look left, look right, they look up, they look down, they're looking at this Instagram guy and this Instagram girl. And ultimately, what I tell people is you have success within you. You don't have to look. It's right there. If you quiet your noise, you keep everything simple, and you find out what the things are that work for you and also the things that are hijacking you from higher performance, that's where success begins. And then you focus on what I call are your IPAs, which are your income-producing activities. And income could be financial. It could also be energy. It could also be, happiness, whatever you define your income to be. And then you also have to focus on what your EDAs are, which are your energy-draining activities. And they could be people. They could be things that you're doing, time that you're wasting. And when you put that all together, you can say, wow, I'm not spending the time or as much time as I should focusing on the things that give me the most bang for my buck and return on my time and investment. I'm focusing on just things over here that are taking away from that. And, I see that a lot today with people is we're constantly searching for success, and you find success oftentimes through trial and error, through failure, and by jumping in the deep end of the pool and sometimes trying to swim even if the tides are strong.
We're talking to Dana Cavalea, author of the book Habits of a Champion, former strength coach for the New York Yankees. And Dana, a lot of what it sounds like you're talking about helps people get to success comes from self-assessment and maybe looking inside yourself and realizing certain things that need to change that are going to help you get to that next level, because you mentioned EDAs, your energy draining activities, and you mentioned your IPAs, your income producing activities. And like you said, it doesn't just have to be in a financial benefit or not benefit. So does a lot of self-assessment go into figuring out your EDAs and your IPAs and how you can get to that success level as an individual?
Yeah, I think it's self-assessment without holding yourself, prisoner either. Ultimately, if you spend too much time looking at yourself, you become a narcissist, and you also become somebody that, is, could be pretty selfish. But it's good to identify, your habits day to day, what your patterns are. If you feel like you're not getting anything done or not getting enough done, it's important to look at where you're spending your time. So it's assessment of behavior. It's also assessment of patterns of thought, and it's also assessment of activities. And when you look at all those things, you can ultimately come together and say, okay, here's why I'm not getting to where it is that I want to go. The other thing I find is when I ask people, from young people all the way through, polished executives, veterans, I say, how do you define winning for yourself? And most people can't answer it, or they give you some canned standard answer that's, politically correct or societally correct, and that's what success is to them, but it's really not. It's just something they see, and that's what they emulate, or they try to copy that. But when you can take the time to define what winning is to yourself and what it means to you and what it means in terms of you, just in terms of all different things. Like I said, how do you want to live? What do you want your day to look like? What lights you up? What brings you down? What's winning to you? And when you can put all that together, then you have the blueprint of personal success, and how you can get there is the next part of the journey.
And I think the best part about what you talk about, Dana, because you made your foundation with an athletic background, but you speak so much about what the common person really probably needs to do on a daily basis to be successful in whatever career path they choose.
Yeah, no, I do. And you know what? Again, I always tell people, the illusion that exists around pro sports is that you have these people that are the top performers in the world. Now they are, but I guess the fallacy is that they don't have problems, or they're not dealing with the same things that you're dealing with as an average person. These people just have a ton of talent, but they also have the sabotaging mindsets at times. They also have a lot of doubt. They also have fear at times. The difference is they've learned to overcome those moments. It's not that the moments don't come anymore. It's they come, but these individuals have learned to overcome those moments. They're trained to do that. Whereas what I find in the world of corporate business, what I find among students today, and what I feel is also leading to this, so-called mental health crisis that's out there, is that people don't know how to deal with their own emotions. They don't know how to deal with their own thoughts, and they don't know how to deal with the negative thoughts. So they act and react instead of just taking things for what they are at times.
How important is the mind in that journey for the individual? Because like you just said, they react or they don't act. And I'm sure a lot of that getting in and out of negatives and highs and lows has to do with how you control the mind and how positive you can try and be in the darkest of times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also talk a lot about positivity and negativity. Everyone says you got to be overly positive, but there are people that are fueled by negative. But the reality is that being fueled and driven by negative, I work with a bunch of guys that have achieved immense levels of success in many categories, and they came from dark, Brooklyn, back when it was a very dark place and it was, rough, and it was just not the place you want to live. And they use that fear and that negative upbringing to drive them towards where it is they want to go. So it's about optimism in terms of destination. But in your journey, there's people that do really well with a chip on their shoulder, and they have something to prove to themselves. They have something to prove to the world. I don't look at that as a negative thing. It's when your negative starts to take over your whole world, and every perspective you have on yourself and others is nothing but negative. Then it becomes more of an issue that needs to be retrained and reprogrammed. There's a lot of research today that talks about neuroplasticity, which is basically saying that the brain has an incredible ability to learn new things, to learn new patterns. So just as you are a certain way today in terms of your thoughts, your outlooks, your habits, your patterns of thought, all that could change if you start changing the inputs that you give your mind.
Well, that's pretty powerful because it really teaches you how powerful yourself is and how just your own thoughts can really change a lot for you.
Yeah, people have a ton of power within them. It's just up to them to activate it. But if you keep listening to, hey, I don't know if I could do that, I'm not sure, or I'm not as good as that person, or whatever you see, I tend to see when you look at Instagram, most people, it's just a very comparative type app. So you're looking at me versus that person, but you're doing it with so much frequency in such a short period of time that whether you're doing a radio show and you see somebody who's had long-term success on a radio show, some people may say, hey, I don't even want to start that. Or a business person that's already on the 50-yard line, and you're thinking of doing a startup, and you're like, I don't know if I have the skills. So we doubt ourselves oftentimes, but if we listen to that, it can oftentimes become our entire existence, and we get the result that we actually expect.
And again, we're talking to Dana Cavalea, author of the book Habits of a Champion. You can go to danacavalea.com to get yourself a copy of the book Habits of a Champion. And the beautiful thing about it is, Dana, and what you're talking about now, is you don't have to go very far in your book to dive into the things that you're talking about. And when I was reading Habits of a Champion, and getting ready for this interview, I went back on a bunch of the different things I underlined because I wanted to note them to you and try and get you to speak about them, but you already did. And what I mean by that is right away I wrote this down. Many top performing winners in life, sports, and business came from underdog circumstances. My man, you wrote it in your book and you just touched on it. Is it crazy that you realize in all aspects, sports, business, any other venture, how much that is true?
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? It's not static. it's dynamic. So some people may read that and say, well, they overcame hardship or difficult circumstances. Some people think that's just early in life. But I can tell you there's a lot of business people and a lot of guys in sports that shot off like a rocket ship, and then bang, they hit a wall and they start to fall backwards, and their darker time, may come in their 30s, it may come in their 40s, it may come in their 50s or 60s. But it's ultimately saying, hey, if I'm experiencing that, but I know that I can get out of it because I trust myself, I believe in myself, and I know that I can get there. And if you don't trust or believe in yourself, you just got to work backwards and ask yourself, why don't I? You know what I mean?
Can you reference a time when you were with an athlete, most likely obviously in the Yankees organization, where you witnessed them maybe go through some struggles and find that out mentally, and maybe they were somebody, because I know you've talked about Mariano a lot. Mariano was one of those guys. He came from nothing, and look what he's made himself. And I know you talk about him a lot in the book and how he's able to keep his mind and stay consistent every day.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's an example that, a lot of people would obviously know. For him, he came from a fishing town in Panama and came from nothing. Didn't even really start playing baseball until his high school years. And again, was playing with a milk carton as a glove, and I don't even know what the ball was made of, but that's how he got started. Now, again, freak talent. But there's another player that actually got into the Hall of Fame this year with Mo, and his name was Mike Mussina. And I got a chance to watch him up front. I mean, this guy was throwing 95 miles an hour most of his prime. He was a great pitcher.
Why is that so critical?
Yeah, so most people struggle to do the same thing each and every day. But the reality is, if you want to have success in all that you do, you got to be consistent in your patterns and your habits each and every day. So you can't do one thing on Monday, something different on Tuesday, and expect to have a result over time. It's about what you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that yields that ultimate result.
Truly important. You also, in one of your chapters, you say never get too high or too low. Why is that?
Yeah, in all my years working with professional athletes, I realized that the great ones were able to be consistent in their mood every single day. And what that allowed them to do was keep their energy under control. Because as you're spiking up with happiness and you're going down in your mood, that wears you down over time. So we got to keep your energy stable, and we do that by being consistent in our overall moods and attitudes.
And another theme from a different chapter, fail to plan, plan to fail. What does that mean?
Yeah, so again, nobody becomes a champion by accident. It's a planned event. So you can't just go into your day guessing and saying, well, what am I going to do?
It came pretty easy for the first, 3 quarters of it.
Isn't it crazy how you never really know? Like you don't know when you're going to be on top, and all of a sudden you wake up the next day and you are where you've seen other people be. And I'm sure, and I know you referenced this in Habits of a Champion, that these guys that are on the edge of the major league level, they don't want to taste the peanut butter and jelly anymore. They don't want to taste the hanger steak. They don't want to go back to that life, so they have to do whatever they can. And it sounds like Mussina, which it's so cool as a baseball fan to hear that story, Dana, and realize that it wasn't just him being better than everybody else, but he had to consistently work on himself to get to the point of being a Hall of Famer.
Exactly. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us, that we have to constantly be working on ourselves. I mean, Derek Jeter used to walk through our clubhouse every day, especially when we were winning. And he would tell everyone, stay humble, stay humble, stay humble. And when I asked him about that, hey, Derek, when you say that, why do you say that? What is that all about? And he said, well, this is the kind of game where you could be great today and be terrible for the next month.
Wow.
So you have to appreciate your good times, but it's also important to maintain yourself and not get so high on the wins and so high, when you're doing well, that those losses become, catastrophic to you emotionally. So, I mean, we see it all the time. When things go well for us, we shoot up. When things go bad, we shoot down. But the greatest players, again, I've seen it on Wall Street, and I've seen it on Main Street, and I've seen it in professional sports. The greatest players in those categories, they have an ability to stay even. And it's not always something that just comes with them. They train for that. You can train your emotional response every single day. You get bad news, do you crash? Are you bedridden for the next month? Or do you say, hey, you know what? This is a part of life. how am I going to face this? And most people today, they're afraid to face things because those things take them over. Those things overwhelm them. But ultimately, if that's the choice you make, you're going to be in big trouble because life goes on. The train keeps moving.
Remember, if you want to call a question in for Coach before he gets off, a few more minutes left in this interview, please, at 609-807-2492. I know we have a few write-ins on Instagram we'll get to in a minute here, Coach, for you from the fans. But I would be remiss if I didn't get into the book a little bit deeper, Habits of a Champion, because already in the 15 minutes you've been on this show, I hope and I can tell that the people realize you have an unbelievable amount of knowledge in this area. So my guess is, and now correct me if I'm wrong, is you had to be sitting down one day and saying, I got all this knowledge. I'm telling people they need to train their mind. They need to train their emotions. They need to train more than just the physical. I got to write this stuff down and help them find ways to train those tools.
Right. Well, that's why, one day I just said, you know what, I'm going to write a book. And I had no intention of writing a book. As a young kid, I had no desire to even read books. I hated it. It wasn't my thing. I just wasn't into it. And the first question you get is, okay, I'm going to write a book. And then it's, well, now what? Now what do I do? Where do I start? And I didn't let that question, get in my way. I said, okay, I want to write a book. Let me figure out how to do it. And, it's interesting, right? You answer your own questions sometimes. How do you write a book? You first start writing the book. So it's kind of
words.
Sometimes answers to our questions are right in front of us, and that's what I did. And then I chopped away and figured this out, and I asked questions, and it's using your resources and using the people around you to help you. So, but so many of us, we get jammed up. So I just say, take action, and good action, bad action, it's action. At least you're doing something that'll get you closer to what it is you want the answers to.
I completely agree. And something that really stuck with me, and that's something that I'm rolling into our baseball program this year at FDU, was never get too high and never get too low. And Dana, I got to say, you hit home for me on that one. And I know it's a chapter in the book. I believe chapter 2. I got the book right here in front of me. My father has, and he's the sponsor of this show as well. His book is sitting right next to me as well. He has made a career off of talking about that point right there. Never let your highs get too high and your lows get too low. Is that something that developed over time for you? Had you heard somebody else say that? Or was it just like, boom, I'm writing this book, and that was something that I realized had happened over my career?
Listen, as a baseball player, if you would have watched me play, you'd know that didn't come with the package. I mean,
same with me.
I was a rager as a player. I would be the guy that would, want to chop down the dugout with my bat when it didn't go well. So it was something that I had to learn, and I'm pissed that I didn't learn it earlier because it's a skill. It's something that you can acquire, and whether it happens with age or it just comes with awareness, I didn't understand how that sort of, rocket-fired and rocket-fueled emotion was actually hurting me. I didn't understand the connection between performance and emotional instability in the moment, So that was a problem. So it's something you can definitely learn, and something that if you put the time into learning, you can do it. And how do you learn it? Well, when you get out of control and you feel yourself heating up, I always say it's like when you're heating up, you put your foot on the gas and you pedal down. So what do you do to calm it down? Go pedal off. If you feel yourself running hard and running heavy, just pull back.
Yeah.
And I use that analogy, gas pedal. Gas pedal down at the floor is you're crazy, just let up. And it's amazing how those RPMs drop so quickly. It's
funny also how people, and I know you speak about this a little bit as well in Habits, but I know people also don't realize how important off time is. Like, you don't have to be doing, and I'm terrible at this, Dana. I really am. I'll openly admit it to the people. But how important just breathing, turning your mind off, and actually taking time off from whatever it is you do.
Yeah, I think it's huge, and most people don't do it because, they're letting fear drive their actions. I got to be successful. What if I'm not doing this, somebody else is? Or, man, I saw Gary Vaynerchuk say, if I'm not working, I'm lazy. Or I saw somebody, some influencer pushing a message that I should be up at 4 o'clock in the morning or I'm a loser. And there's all this crap that's out there. and it hurts people because I'll tell you what, man, I work with some guys that are bigger than any of those people that are dropping those messages. And these are guys, they're going to bed at reasonable times. You know, they're not working, 24 hours a day or trying to. You know, I got a guy I'm working with now that's building his $5 billion company, and he's in his early 60s, and he works Monday through Thursday,
Wow.
To do it. So it's not about that. It's about recovering your body so your thoughts could be fresh and revitalized.
And sleep, huge factor in that. I know you just mentioned it, going to
Exactly.
sleep at a good time. Such a big factor in that, and we talked about it a little bit last week. So, Dana, all right, we've mentioned the book obviously a few times. Now I want you, the mic is yours, the floor is yours. Let people know I mentioned it before, where they can get the book. And I know you're obviously not just an author. I know you speak as well. You've done it for me, and you do so much more. So just let everybody know where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, DanaCavalea.com. You can get the book there. I do a daily blog that I always invite people to help you along your journey because, changing your physicality, changing your mentality, it's a journey. So I write every day, and you could also get the book on Amazon too. So simple.
Very nice. And social media, I believe it's The Real Coach D on Instagram, right?
Yep, The Real Coach D on Instagram and Dana Cavalea on Twitter. And you can get to all that too through the website as well.
So at the end of the day, people, you need to go to DanaCavalea.com. It's up on the Facebook live screen underneath the Rome Show. So we're making it super simple for you to go there as well. Dana, I need one more thing from you, okay? And I know I asked you this before the show, but I want to do this with all my interviews. I want you to leave the Rome Show with something today, all the Romo Sapiens, as we call the listeners. We want you to leave them with something that is simple and easy that they maybe can put in their daily life every day with some of the things that you've learned, wrote about, and taught other people.
Yeah, well, the one thing I always say is you got to have a personal routine that works for you. Now, what is that? I say it's got to encompass a couple different things. You got to eat clean. You got to train every day. I always say get up in the morning, get your stretching in the morning, and start your day at your own pace. Don't feel like you got to run into the day. So if you can do those things, stretch it out, eat clean, train, get your physicality going every day, and that you can start the day with your own pace, it's a good time to make sure your mind is clear and ready to go so you can not be reactive to your day and not playing defense on your day, but you're always playing offense, and that's the biggest thing. If you want to win, you got to play offense. You got to put points on the board, but you got to be in the best mental and physical state to do that.
I really, really like that, Dana. And myself, the fans of the Rome Show, we thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and talking to us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That is Dana Cavalea, former strength coach of the New York Yankees, as well as author of the book.
YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
And welcome back to GMA and today's weekend download. Advice on how to achieve success in your life, no matter what you do. Former New York Yankees performance coach Dana Cavalea is the author of Habits of a Champion.
Break down that interview with Dana Cavalea.
You're looking to become a better leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment? Well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, the Principles of Balanced Leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 360managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles.
Welcome back into the Rome Show. I'm your host, Andrew Romanella. And remember, $1 from every book sold from Tighten the Lug Nuts at 360managementservices.com will be donated back to the V Foundation for Cancer Research. So, the number 360managementservices.com, $1 back from Tighten the Lug Nuts to the V Foundation. That was an awesome interview with Dana Cavalea. There is so much to unpack right now that I'm just going to put it on the table. Coach Romo 24 on Twitter and the Gram. Right now, the show is not showing up on my Facebook home screen, so I'm sorry if people are watching on the Facebook, but I can't see the comments because for some reason I can't see them. But that's okay, because you can get me on the gram and the Twitter, or obviously, like I said, no one does it, but you can email theromeshow1@gmail.com. And I appreciated the fan write-in question of, is there an example of a player? And I thought Mike Musina was a really good one that Dana brought up, about how he had to reinvent the wheel in his career, and he had to redefine and rediscover who he was as a pitcher. And I thought, it's funny, I made mention to Mariano Rivera thinking, oh, that's going to be where he wants to go, but he didn't, and I thought that was a really cool example. Remember, 609-807-2492. That is the call-in number, 609-807-2492. I'd love for you guys to call in. Let me know about what you thought about Dana's interview, about to dissect it right now, as well as anything else you want to hear on the Rome Show in the last 15 minutes or so. And I just got a note in the studio. If you go to Facebook.com and you go to Vincent Scott's page, we had a syncing issue, so that's where you can be watching this Rome Show live right now. So to make sure you guys go there, if you want to be watching the show on the Facebook Live, I appreciate anybody that wrote in and let us know that that was going on. Much appreciated. So let's dive into Dana real quick before we move forward with the remainder of the show. A few points I wanted to touch on really quickly before we got off. Okay, 1, EDAs and IPAs, income producing activity, energy draining activity. I thought that was super awesome. I'm a very positive, motivational guy, as you guys can't tell. My father is as well, as you can't tell, right? Love John Wooden, love John Gordon, love guys that are motivational in that aspect. And I've used the energy bus, from John Gordon a multitude of times in my teaching in college baseball. Well, now I'm going to use IPAs and EDAs, because I realize when thinking about my individual example and thinking about the college baseball players that I coach, we have a lot of energy draining activity, more so than we have income-producing activity. And that's something I want everybody to take away from this interview, was that you really need to look at what things you're doing in your life that are just completely draining your energy. Like for me, for example, and there's none whatsoever disrespect towards my Rockland Boulders family, but I'm going to be honest here. When I drive up there 2 hours to throw BP for about an hour, it's almost like, is this worth it? I want to be around professional baseball still. I love the organization. I've been there for so long, but is this worth it? And as I hear Dana talk, it's the first thing that came to my mind. Oh, that might be in the EDA category for me. So just looking at those energy draining activities and understanding maybe how much those are hurting us. The second thing was, and I noted it in Straight Off the Rome, and Dana mentioned it as well, the mindset, man. The positive thought process. The ability in your mind to think positively when you're in a negative situation to help you get out of that situation and rise to a more positive situation. Those thoughts are what you're going to look back on in times of hardship and realize, man, that really helped me get out of it. And Dana even said it. He said exactly, yeah, people can accomplish way more than they think they can. And he didn't mean that physically. He meant that emotionally. Mentally, spiritually, you can accomplish with your mind so much more than you believe you can accomplish just by changing your mindset, changing your thought process, and changing some verbiage with the way you talk to yourself. And he did mention self-assessment and the importance of it, but understanding that there's a level of self-assessment and a level in which you can't go too deep and become selfish, but you need to go deep enough to understand the way people are looking at you from the outside. And I'm going to find the quote in the book, because Dana mentioned, and I believe, and I said it, from Mariano Rivera. He was training with him one day, and he asked Mariano a super simple question. How does he succeed in the highest of pressure situations? And Mariano's response was super simple. He said this: buddy, I do 3 things. First, I quiet the noise. Second, I slow everything down. Third, I throw one pitch at a time. And Dana goes on, and as you read the book, and I hope you go pick yourself up a copy at DanaCavalea.com, and he goes on and be like, that's it? Like, that's all? And Mariano says the most important thing you can do is control the noise. Limit the noise. Bring the noise down. Well, how do you do that? You use your mind, right? So when you look at the best closer in Major League Baseball history, right? You look at the best closer in Major League Baseball history, his 3-step process is quiet the noise, slow everything down, throw one pitch at a time. It's mental. It's more mental than it's physical. And that's everything in life. And that brings me straight into today's segment of Romalytics. Because knowing that we were going to have Coach Cavalea on the line today, I wanted to look into one of the players that he had the opportunity to be with for a majority of their Hall of Fame career and his career in professional baseball, him that being Dana Cavalea, and that's Mariano Rivera. So your Romalytics today are going to come on the heels of Mariano Rivera being inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And I've said this before, and I think I might have said it 2 weeks ago. Mariano Rivera is the first player in Major League Baseball history to be unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame. Here are his statistics. 1,283.2 innings pitched. 952 games finished. Mind-blowing. 652 saves, the most all-time. A 2.2 ERA. Nearly 1,200 strikeouts. 13-time All-Star and a 5-time World Series champion. That's the line for Mariano Rivera. That is the Hall of Famer unanimously voted into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And when asked by Dana Cavalea how he is that successful in the biggest moments, quiet the noise, slow everything down, throw one pitch at a time. And when Dana would not leave him alone, this is how Mariano then responded. And this is what I want you to take home from Romalytics today. Why are those numbers so good? How is he the only player ever to not have anyone vote against him? Well, because this is Mariano to a T. Buddy, in life, there are no big situations. Big situations do not exist. No situation is bigger than another unless we make it bigger. We have the choice, but every situation is the same. We decide. We make situations big. They are all the same. All in the mind right there. That's it. You create anxiety. You create negativity. You create the allure that a situation is big and that a moment is huge and that there's pressure on the line. Mariano didn't. So he threw nearly 1,300 innings. He saved 652 games, and he got unanimously voted into the Hall of Fame because he was able to control the mind to the most simplest of forms and compete at the highest of levels. And I'm going to say that one more time because I want that to stick. At the simplest of forms, he controlled the mind to be great at the highest possible level. The simpler, the better. If you stay simple with your thought process in a positive light, you will start to create the mind, the habits, the life that you really want to create. And I hope that having Dana on today shed a little insight onto somebody that is doing it himself, but has also worked with some of the most high-profile athletes to have ever done it, wrote a book on those athletes, and is sharing that story with you. So besides having to go pick up Tighten the Lug Nuts, I mean, the ability the Romo Sapiens have to be able to pick themselves a copy up of books that can help them as leaders with their mind. I mean, really, one Romo Sapien at a time. To me, we're creating a better world, and that's all we're looking to do here. So go pick up the copy of Dana Cavalea's Habits of a Champion. We appreciate Dana coming on. Those are your Romalytics for today. If you don't believe the Mariano stats, just go take a look and go do some research on the guy, because it was a struggle for him to come up in life and for him to accomplish what he accomplished. It came down to the simplest of mind thoughts. Okay, we got a little bit of time here left on the Rome Show, and I wanted to leave the last bit of the Rome Show for the fans, okay? We had a bunch of different people write in, Instagram, Twitter. I've also had some coaches reach out to me in person over text message when I see them at different recruiting events. So I wanted to end the show here with the fans, okay, the Fanasapiens. And I want you to call in 609-807-2492 if you have any questions, comments, whatever, you just want to get on the Rome Show, by all means, chime on in. I know that I was told by my fantastic producers here at Hamilton Radio that I was tagged in the live feed for the Rome Show. So that'll make life a little bit easier. So if you're on my page and you see the tag, it'll be there. First fan write-in on the Rome Show today. And this is a good one. And I really, really like this one. I got this from John. I'm just going to use first names. We're not going to send anybody's personal information out there. Do not worry. I got this from John on Instagram. He wrote, "Is baseball a team sport?" I really like that one. I really, really like that one for multiple reasons. And it's not just because I'm a baseball coach, everybody, okay? Baseball is an individual concept built within a team sport. That's the way I see it. It's all individual based. It's a one-on-one battle between the pitcher and the hitter, right? It's a one-on-one battle between the base runner stealing second and the catcher throwing it out. But it's a team concept because you still need everybody working together to accomplish the goal of winning, or for that matter, completing the out. Because even though the individual throws the pitch, the individual hits the ball, the individual fields the ball, that individual throws it to another individual, who throws it to another individual, and we create a team. And there are concepts within the game that are team-oriented. Bunting, hitting and running, doing things, maybe intentionally walking a batter so that you could get a double play in order. Then their middle infielders need to turn the double play. So I don't believe it's a straight up just team sport. I do think it is a team sport, but it is individual based around a team concept. I don't know if that's considered a cop-out answer, but it's the way I've always described the game of baseball. So when I got this question a few days ago, I'm like, I like that one a lot. So that's my feeling on that one for you, John. Okay, the second one, I got this one on Twitter from Mary, and it was, does college athletics really help you in the business world? Love that, because I think it does. And one day we're going to have my fantastic father on here, Mr. 360managementservices.com, Mr. Tighten the Lug Nuts. But one thing I always got from my father, and he talks about this often, is when a resume would come across his desk when he was in his time at UPS or when he was the CEO at Unitech or whatever, wherever he was dominating the world, he would always see and note somebody that played college athletics, because they understand time management. They understand the extra effort it's going to take to be great. They understand how to work in a team. They're, as a college athlete, going to have so many skills that they've gotten great at through whatever sport it is they played. Now, again, I'm a golfer, I'm a tennis player, I'm a swimmer. Okay, I get that those are more individual sports, but at the end of the day, a college athlete in this example is going to have so much more on their plate than just somebody going to school, that yes, it will help you in the business world. Yes, it will help prepare you to work in a team or to have to meet deadlines or to make sure your time management skills are on, to show up early to things, have consistent meetings. People forget how much a college athlete does on a daily basis outside the academic model of being a college student. Division III baseball players alone for the fall semester will go to 4 mandatory workouts. They will go to 2 hours of mandatory study hall. For 16 dates, they will go to a mandatory practice 4 days a week. That is just Division III athletics in the fall. That doesn't include a game schedule in the spring. That doesn't include practices in the spring. All the times that we have ability to do extra work, X, Y, and Z. So if you're somebody hiring and you got a kid that comes across your desk that, for this example, let's use Alabama football, right? This kid's resume comes across your desk. He played wide receiver for Alabama. Who cares if he was good or he wasn't? You immediately, and I know Alabama is an extreme example, but you immediately know, oh, this kid's disciplined, he's got respect, and he's going to be able to work within the confines of what we need to work in because he went to college and played college football for Nick Saban in the SEC. So I do ultimately think that playing college athletics is a huge help for you. And I'm not just going to say the business world, in the world outside of college. Big time. Okay, the professional world. Let's call it that. Last question here on the Rome Show fan write-ins, and I really like this one. This one's from Sal. He wrote in, can you explain a little bit more the college recruiting process? And I love the question, but it's a loaded question. And it's a question that, honestly, I decided I'm going to take, and I'm going to make that a specific Rome Show. We can bring a college and NCAA collegiate coach on here, maybe multiple. We got so many microphones in this Hamilton radio studio, right? We'll bring maybe some college coaches in here. We can have a discussion about the recruiting process, about the different sports, how important certain things are. We'll do all that stuff. But I'll give you one nugget, Sal, on the recruiting process now. Maybe two, okay? It's starting so early. It's starting so early because these Division I schools are giving out so much money that as freshmen and sophomores, these kids are starting to verbally commit to schools, and it's mind-blowing. So that's the first thing you have to understand. You are on the clock the minute you become a freshman in high school. Is it fair? No. No, it's not fair, but it's true. You're on the clock. So you better believe your grades matter, you better believe your work ethic matters, and you better believe what you're doing at 14, as crazy as that sounds coming out of my mouth, is going to matter for 95% of the high-level programs that kids want to play at. The second thing I'll tell you about college athletics is do your research. The recruiting process. Do your research. Do not email, hey, coach, I would love to attend your school, blah, 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 while I look up and see that you've sent that to 15 other hey coaches. Don't ask me a question about my university that you can easily find on the website. Do not, as much as players want to feel individualized in the recruiting process, you need to understand coaches and programs want to feel the same way to a degree back. So you have to do the work, the legwork, the effort, the research to understand programs so you can have a logical conversation about your coach, their program, and what you're getting yourself into. Because the last thing is, you got to remember, kids, any kid listening to this, any person, parent listening to this that's helping a kid go through the recruiting process, it's about life. It's not about their 4 years in college. It's about the 40 years after in which they graduate that they will be a professional in most likely, if not guaranteed, something that is not a sport. So remember that. You're on the clock the minute you start high school. It's not fair, but it's true. And you better do your research. Prove to coaches that you know exactly what their school is all about, and you've done enough research so that you can have a logical conversation with them. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the time has run out today on this August 5th edition of The Rome Show. I want to thank Dana Cavalea, former strength coach of the New York Yankees, 2009 World Series champion, and author of the book Habits of a Champion, which you can pick up at DanaCavalea.com. Awesome interview. Super pumped that he was able to join the show today. I want to thank all the Romo Sapiens that chimed in on the social medias. I'm sorry to the Facebook group. I will be responding post-show. I promise you that, to the people that commented that I missed throughout the show. And I remind you that the next Rome show will take place on August 26th with special guest Rob DeToma. Rob DeToma is the new head baseball coach at Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck. And Rob's going to come on here and talk to us about building a program. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. I'll send out a bunch of stuff at Coach Romo24 on Twitter and the Gram. In the meantime, you can get me on those social media outlets. You can listen to the DAAB Podcast at daabpodcast.com. Rome Squared every Friday. So much, so much. The wide world of Rome, everything. Thank you to Hamilton Radio, hamiltonradio.net. I am Andrew Romanella. This has been The Rome Show. Thank you, 360managementservices.com, our sponsor. Head over to number 3, 60managementservices.com to pick up a copy of Tighten the Lug Nuts. We will talk to you in a few weeks.
Leader, whether that's in business, in sports, or in life, and you haven't found a book yet to help you get to that game-changing aha moment, well, we have the book for you. Tighten the Lug Nuts, the principles of balanced leadership. Tighten the Lug Nuts will help you get to that game-changing leadership moment. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iBooks, or at 360managementservices.com. That's the number 3, 60managementservices.com. Pick up your copy today and start changing your leadership styles.